The PSVR 2 has been out for about a year and a half, and it's been a bit of a rough time, but it just might be saved by this little black box right here. Released in February of last year, the PSVR 2 had, honestly, a bit of a promising start. I mean, there's always a little bit of doom and gloom when it comes to talking about VR headsets in the gaming space, especially when it's attached to a major first party like with PlayStation, but it really did have some initial momentum. There were some great games that showcased the technology right away, like with Horizon Call of the Mountain, and VR modes for games like Resident Evil and Gran Turismo. There were some genuinely very great experiences available right at the launch of the headset, and the headset itself does boast some great tech relative to the space, including having an OLED display. As time went on though, the one major focus of the VR2 ended up also being the thing that became a bit troubling. It is a dedicated PlayStation 5 only device, and while there was the occasional release here and there for a VR enthusiast to enjoy, there wasn't really a massive library growing to justify it to a lot more people. And that's what brings us back to this little black box right here. This is the PSVR 2 PC adapter. This allows you to not only use your PlayStation VR 2 with your PS5, but with this adapter, you can also use it with a PC in order to take advantage of Steam VR, opening up a considerably larger library of games that you can now do across two different platforms, assuming you have access to both of them. Now, by the time this video is up, this will have officially released, but PlayStation actually did send this review to me early to check out, so I've actually taken a bit of time over the past week trying out a bunch of different games, diving into some stuff on PC that I just haven't really gotten the chance to play before, and honestly, there are some very awesome things about how this opens up what can be done with the headset. Some quick context for this, honestly, I'm not the biggest VR person. Most of my interaction with the space lately has been with the PSVR 2 specifically, and so being able to use that on PC as well has really opened up a lot of additional experiences that I've been holding off on for a long time, and that was one of the big things that appeals to it for me. It's not just simply being able to use it with a PC, but specifically being able to play those games that are only on PC. First things first, I just want to talk about the setup process with this, which is overall pretty simple. It's not quite as simple as using the VR2 with the PS5, because that's just a single USB-C cable going into the system and you're done. Obviously, with this adapter in the mix, there's a little bit more going on. You'll see at the front here is a USB-C port. That's where you plug the PSVR2 in. On the back, we have a pair of ports along with this hardwired cable. The cable is USB-A, so that's what you're plugging into your PC. In addition to that, you've got this power port, so it does have to be plugged into its own dedicated power source. It comes with the cable for that, and then a display port where you'll have to use a 1.4 DisplayPort cable that does not come with that adapter. If you already find yourself having a bunch of these on hands, then no worry, but if you don't have access to one and you want to pick this up, that is one extra cost you're going to need to be aware of picking one of those up as well. Once you have everything hooked up physically, the next step is going to be on the software side of things, where on Steam you're actually able to access a PSVR 2 app, and that's the first thing you're going to want to actually set up before diving into Steam VR itself. Running this app is going to connect to the PSVR 2 and make sure that everything is up to date and has the proper drivers installed to use the headset with your PC. And then after this, you'll go through some pretty familiar steps if you've worked with any other VR headset in the past, setting up your play space, whether or not you want a quick setup in somewhere you're going to not move a whole lot, or trying to make a larger open space you can move around a little bit, detecting how low the floor goes. It's a pretty straightforward process. And then once you're able to dive into Steam VR, the headset is just fully integrated, to the point at which even being able to see the PSVR controllers as they are. It doesn't look like another kind of generic design. It is specifically the PSVR controllers in the UI, which is very nice. Once I got through this pretty easy setup, I was then able to dive right away into a bunch of stuff that I've just been meaning to play on PC that I just haven't, because I haven't really had an up-to-date VR headset to use in that situation, with stuff like Half-Life Alyx, the VR modes for some games like Star Wars Squadrons, along with the recently released Riven remake, which was actually one of the things I was most excited to check out. And the experiences of these games through the PSVR 2 headset are fantastic. I mean, just visually in terms of what this headset is capable of, as far as the resolution, the vividness of the colors and light thanks to being OLED displays. It is honestly a great headset now that this additional functionality is opened up, though there are still some hangups worth being aware of, namely the fact that this is, of course, a wired-only headset. Something that does soften this blow a little bit is that the cable that is hardwired attached to the PSVR 2 is quite long. It's just under 15 feet. So in my case, I was able to pretty comfortably set up some play areas nearby where my PC setup was. I didn't have to break it down and set it up elsewhere or anything like that. I was really able to just run the cable over to a nearby couch and even to an open space for games where I wanted to stand. And it was long enough to where I was able to do this and still have enough slack to where it wasn't an awkward situation. Obviously, this is going to vary based on your own particular setups, what kind of space you're in, what kind of area is available. So knowing that there is that cable restriction is something that's worth keeping in mind. There are those games where you can just sit and be stationary and do that style and it's going to work out just fine, but for anything where you do need to have more movement, it is something you should be aware of. Something else worth keeping in mind if you haven't looked closely at the VR2 headset before is that it does not have built-in speakers. Instead, it relies on using a wired headset via an aux port. It does come with its own earbuds that are able to attach to the headset in a very seamless way and is very comfortable. They are also, however, little earbuds, and in my particular case, I'm actually not sure where mine are, so I had to use a different wired headset with the setup, which still worked out great, but it does require that in order to get audio out of it. There are no built-in speakers for it to take advantage of. I will say one point in the favor of the PSVR 2 versus other experiences I've had. Again, overall, I have not been completely up to date on VR headsets, but I have had the opportunity of, trying out different ones, wearing them, and at least going on trials. And one thing that has stood out to me about the VR 2 back when I first tried it, and going back to it today, the overall comfort level of it. Because it is a wired headset that's relying on some other tech, like a PC or a PS5, it's able to be a much lighter weight than other options out there that are all-in-one solutions. And I found that to make it a more comfortable and seamless experience, where really in those games where you find yourself feeling truly immersed, especially if you're using some over-ear headphones to just block out the outside world audio-wise, it just makes it that much easier to get immersed in what you're playing and doing because it's not quite as much of a heavy weight on your head. Obviously, you're going to feel the fact that you are wearing a headset, but it's just a little easier to ignore, I think, because of that lighter weight. Now, again, the big question we have to come back to, though, is this kind of change a significant enough boost to save the PSVR 2 in a sense? And I feel like yes, but also kind of no in some ways. If you already invested in a PSVR 2, it's something you picked up right away and you were excited for, and you find yourself not using it as much lately because of just what games are available, this, in my mind, is an instant pickup, assuming you have a PC that's capable of fully supporting the functionality. $60 plus whatever extra bit you might spend on getting a DisplayPort cable, in my mind, is completely worth opening up the PC library and how many more games you can now check out and play and take advantage of this headset with. Because again, the tech in here is solid. As far as just the kind of experiences it's able to have, and again, that comfort level, it's great. And so having more games to actually take advantage of with it is fantastic. If you're coming from the standpoint, however, of, not having bought a PSVR 2 yet, it gets a little bit dicier in my opinion, just because the asking price in the first place is already pretty up there. And grand total, you're easily spending $600 to get in on this, and that's a pretty significant asking price. Something we have seen happen recently, though, is that it has been having price drops. Not permanent ones, but there have been sales, including going as low as $350. And in that particular price range, with the adapter thrown in, that to me makes a lot more sense and a lot more tempting, and hopefully that is a sale price we see come up a little more often. If not, maybe at least some bundles or something to really try and drive home a better value option for this. Because full MSRP is definitely pretty spicy, and you already have to be in a pretty specific situation to even still consider that option, because you have to have both a PS5 and a PC that's capable of fully taking advantage of this. And I will say, as someone who is in those circumstances, I absolutely am already appreciating the headset much more. I used it a bunch when it first came out and enjoyed a lot of those games that were part of the launch lineup, and then definitely had it sit on the wayside as time went on and didn't use it as much. And I am now much more interested in diving into a lot more games and using it much more regularly because of this opened up library of options. So those are my thoughts on the PSVR 2 a year and a half later, and now more fully opened up thanks to this little adapter right here. If you are interested in grabbing anything that I've talked about in today's video, I do have that link down below in the description. Once again, I do want to thank PlayStation for sending me the adapter early to check out and review. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know, and I will see you all later.